We know that blue eyes and red hair are more rare than other traits, but we still see people with them every day. But there are some unique features that only a minuscule amount of people are born with. Some may invoke envy, but others you'll be glad you missed out on. Here are 10 things only a small percentage of people are born with. A very small percentage of people are born with the ability to sense whenever the hub puts out a new, amazing video. For everyone else, we recommend clicking on the subscribe button. Thankfully, technology can compensate for your lack of hub sense. Extra ear hole. We've all heard the expression, "I need that like I need another hole in the head." Well, turns out that some of us are indeed born with a pointless extra hole in our heads. It's located where the top of your ear connects to the side of your face, and how likely you are to have it depends on where you live. For those of us in the US, we have a 0.1% chance. People in the UK have a 0.9% chance, whereas people in Asia or Africa have as much as a 4 to 10% chance. It's called preancular sinus, and although it's harmless, it does carry a slight risk of infection. It's caused by the first and second pharyngeal arches, which are structures found in all vertebrates. As mammals, they go on to form the structures of our head and neck. In fish, they help develop gills. Evolutionary biologist Neil Shubin hypothesizes that these holes could be an evolutionary remnant of fish gills, but this hasn't been scientifically tested. Sunlight allergy. No, we aren't talking about vampires, so put down the garlic. We're talking about a rare condition known as etheriporrheic protoporphyria. It's so rare that it only affects 1 in 200,000 people. It seems crazy that people could be allergic to the sun. After all, our lives quite literally revolve around it. But sufferers of this genetic condition have severe skin reactions to the UV light of the sun. While protective clothing, zinc oxide, and good old staying indoors can help, people with this affliction can be severely burned by the sun. They're also prone to vitamin D deficiencies, as the sun is our primary source of that particular nutrient. Two faces. Being called two-faced is more accurate than insulting if you are born with diprosopis, or cranial facial duplication. Although people with this incredibly rare mutation may appear to have a conjoined twin, this anomaly is not due to the fusion of two embryos. It's caused by abnormal activity by the protein sonic hedgehog, or SHH. No, really, that's what the scientists came up with. SHH governs the width of facial features, and if there's too much of it, facial features can actually be duplicated in mirror image form. Scientists have replicated this in experiments creating two-headed chicks. Since 1864, only 50 cases have been documented in humans. A famous, although disputed case was that of Edward Mordrake, who was born in 19th century England and portrayed in the 4th season of American Horror Story. Mordrake was born with an extra face on the back of his head, according to an 1896 medical encyclopedia, Anomalies and Curiosities of Medicine. Tails. While the percentage of humans with tails is very small, it turns out that all of us had tails at one time. That's right. During development, fetuses have a tail from the 5th to 8th week of gestation. It usually gets absorbed by the growing embryo, but occasionally it does remain. While having a tail might seem pretty cool, after all, monkeys get a lot of use out of theirs. In humans, they aren't prehensile. They're just a collection of adipose and connective tissues, striated muscles, nerves, and blood vessels. Not all protrusions are what doctors call true tails. Some are merely growths that happen to be located near the tailbone. True tails are so rare that there have only been between 20 and 30 cases since the late 1800s. Because the tail contains muscle tissues, they can actually move somewhat. However, these days they're usually removed before the babies can gain muscle control over them. Hairy faces. People with hypertrichosis have more hair on their faces than even the burliest lumberjack. It's also known as werewolf syndrome, which in our opinion sounds way cooler, although it may denote an alliance of Team Jacob not endorsed by the afflicted. This disorder is so rare, only 100 cases have been documented worldwide. People with generalized hypertrichosis grow thick hair over their entire bodies, while people with localized hypertrichosis grow excessive hair on their faces. It sometimes occurs repeatedly in the same family, such as the 4-generational sacred family of Burma. After appearing in the famous P.T. Barnum Circus sideshow in 1988, the Hirstuit family mysteriously vanished. They could be clogging up showers anywhere on Earth as we speak. Inability to move your face. People with Moebius syndrome have to rely on their words rather than their facial expressions to get their point across. While we can say a lot with a smile, raised eyebrow, or pursed lips, people with Moebius syndrome are unable to move their facial muscles. This neurological condition is extremely rare, affecting about 1 in 500,000 newborns. Researchers currently aren't sure what causes it, but suspect it may be genetic. They are currently working to identify specific genes related to the condition. A telltale sign of Moebius syndrome is the absence or underdevelopment of certain cranial nerves that control eye movement and facial expressions. People with Moebius syndrome can feel awkward in social situations since they can't return common facial expressions. And if you're dating someone with Moebius syndrome and you ask them if anything's wrong and they say they're fine, you just have to take their word for it. 2 identical siblings. We have all seen The Parent Trap and imagined our own wacky hijinks we could get into if only we had an identical twin. Monozygotic multiples form when a fertilized egg splits up, creating 2 or more embryos with the same DNA. Identical twins are pretty rare, occurring in 1 in 1,000 births. But even more rare is when the zygote splits twice, creating identical triplets. Experts disagree on just how rare identical triplets are, but most agree that there is at least 1 in a million chance. While fraternal twins and triplets can run in families, identical multiples are pure chance. An increase in fertility treatments is credited with creating more multiple births, but these are all fraternal siblings because they involve multiple eggs. Caul. If you're not sure what a caul is, we don't blame you since it's not something you've ever seen an adult walking around in. A caul is a thin membrane that can cover a newborn's head and face immediately after birth. It needs to be carefully removed by a doctor or midwife to avoid harming the infant. Babies born with one are said to be born behind the veil, and in many cultures it's thought to be a sign of good fortune. The cauls themselves were thought to bring good luck, and in medieval times were sold at a high price to sailors. I guess when you're on a ship in the middle of a storm, every bit of luck helps. Caul births are sometimes confused with end-caul births, which occur when a baby is born inside of an unbroken amniotic sac. Being born with a caul occurs in fewer than 1 in 80,000 births, but that statistic also includes babies born end caul. Therefore, authentic caul babies are even more rare. Wiggling ears. We know many animals can move their ears in order to hear better, or in order to express emotions. But did you know that some humans are born with the ability to move theirs as well? It's thought that ear wiggling was once important to our ancestors, but we don't need to express our anger by flattening our ears anymore. We have emojis for that. Some people have the ability to wiggle one or both of their ears. There are several muscles that control our ears, and they're called the auriculars. The auricular anterior draws the ears up and forward. The auricular superior raises it, and the auricular posterior pulls it backwards. People with moving ear syndrome can't stop moving their ears. Their auricular is involuntary spasm causing the ears to perpetually move. More than 2 kidneys. Needing a kidney transplant is a serious medical procedure, but some people are lucky to be born enough with a spare. Normally we have 2 kidneys, but people with a duplex kidney have 2 kidneys on one or both sides of their bodies, one stacked on top of the other. This occurs in only 1% of the population. Strangely enough, having an entire extra organ is usually not a big deal in this case. Most people don't even find out unless they get an X-ray for an unrelated reason, and doctors can't help but notice an extra passenger. What strange thing were you born with that makes you unique? Tell us in the comments. Even if you don't have an extra hole in your ear or an extra organ, the average human body is still amazing in its own way. Subscribe to The Hub to learn more about what's going on inside all of us. Thanks for watching. See you next time.